Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today we're going to be going over how to build our own 5-day, 6-day, 7-day forecast system, as well as a focal today using JavaScript and HTML5. Let's do it. So the first thing we're going to do is create an index.html page inside of our folder that we're running for this forecast. I've already created this so I wouldn't have to reload the go live button again like I had to do in the last video. So if you want to just go ahead and create a blank index.html file, and then you might have to reload your Visual Studio Code in order for your go live button to appear. But I'm going to go ahead and click on this now and go live with it. So obviously, it's blank, but to do this we're not really focusing too much on the HTML side of it, but more focusing on the JavaScript side of it and a little bit of CSS part of it. So we're just going to throw in some Bootstrap CSS. We're not even going to include the Bootstrap JavaScript, just so we have like a column structure, but it's not really necessary for this tutorial. So let me go ahead and get started with making this into an HTML5 document, which I did not do there. There we go. And then let's just call this my weather website site. Okay. Alright, so we are going to include a few different things. So first thing I want to do is go ahead and open up Bootstrap, and let's just copy the first CSS they give us, which is this. We don't really need anything else on it, so we're just going to copy that, and just for display purposes I'm going to remove all of that. Okay, so we have that. The next thing we're going to need is just our own style sheet. So we're going to do link href, and let's do style.css, and again we're going to use SASS to create this. So let's do rel equals style sheet. I'm not 100% certain that's where it's going to appear, so let's go ahead and create our new folder. We're going to call it SCSS, and then inside of this we're going to create style.scss. And let's just go ahead and watch our SASS here just to make sure. Okay, so it creates it in the CSS folder, so let's make sure we update our reference, and this can point to wherever you want it to point to. But for us, this would be sufficient. Alright, so then the next thing, let's go ahead and close that out and close that out. We're going to create a new file. This is just going to be our initialize.js file, and then we are going to create another file called weather.js. Not weather. Yeah, let's do weather. Weather.js. So this is pretty much the only files that we really need to work with right now. So just so we have everything that we need, let's go ahead and let's include jQuery. Let's go ahead and leave it right here. So first thing, let's do script source equals weather.js. I need a dot, not a comma. And then I'm just going to copy this, and then we're also going to link to our initialize, and then we're just going to link to the Ajax library for jQuery. So let's say jQuery Google API library. I guess that'll probably work. Maybe. Let's see. Search for jQuery. Of course. Let's go back. Let's see, CDN, jQuery, CDN. That'll work. Hopefully again. Let's just go with the minified version of 3.6.0. Okay, we're going to paste that in. And again, just to create some clarity in the code, I'm going to remove that. Okay, so that's pretty much all that we need to have open at the moment. So let's get into actually writing out the weather.js, which is going to kind of control our own functionality, which if you've never done before, it's pretty cool. You get to create your own function they can be used by other people, and then they can set options and stuff like that for it. So that's kind of what we're going to go into. Now, before I get started in that, if you like this kind of video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions about this video, whenever you get done watching it, leave me a comment. I try to respond as much as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed to the channel, it would definitely help me out if you do subscribe. So let's get subscribed. I guess in the meantime, enjoy the video, and let's keep going. Alright, so I'm going to just close out the stuff that we don't need, and we're going to keep this page open for now. So we're going to basically write our own weather function. And the way that you do that is you do something like this. So we're going to do jQuery function. Actually, you know what? Let's not do jQuery there, just because this could be something you want to share with people. So we're going to do jQuery function, and then we're going to pass the $ here so that we can kind of declare it a little bit better. And then that should be the beginning part of our function. So now let's actually create it's kind of like a class that we're going to be creating, and then it's going to have its own functions inside of it. So let's do $function. Let's name it weather forecast. And then this is going to be equal to a function, and then we're going to pass the settings variable, which we are going to create whenever the function gets called. But we do want to have some default variables, and this would vary based on what you want people that use this script or yourself to have to modify. You can either modify it directly inside of your function, or you can modify it from inside of the the jQuery call when we go to make it. So let's say we're just going to set up a variable right now called defaults, and defaults is going to be set to an object, and not default, we're going to do defaults. It's going to be set to an object, and then at the end of that we are going to have where our defaults object is passed to the settings variable. So we're going to do var settings, and then we're going to extend defaults, and we're going to pass it to the settings variable that we just created. So essentially that should give us a basis to kind of start our JavaScript function here. So let's say we want to add in something just to be able to view it. So let's do like a app ID is one that I think we're going to have to use. So let's just pass an app ID of 1234 for now, and then that app ID, I'll show you how we can call it, manipulate it in just a second. So now that we have this variable that's being set in settings, we want to return, and then this.each is going to pass the basically every time this function is called, it's going to run this loop. And that means that you can call you can create this multiple times without having to redeclare everything every single time. So let's create a function, and we're going to call it get forecast, and then it's just going to be a function that gets run every single time that this is added. And then let's create that function. So function get forecast, and we're not going to pass anything to it, but we are going to do, let's say, console.log, and we're going to see, so we're passing the variable settings, so we're going to do console.log settings let's do app ID. So that should give us the view that we're wanting, just to kind of test out what's being passed. Now the way that we actually run this function inside of our index.html is, let's create an ID over here, and we're just going to call it let's see, div ID equals example1, just for this case. And then our initialize.js, we're going to do jQuery. Let's see, let me just copy this. So jQuery function, then close that out. And inside of here, we're going to do jQuery, and then the ID example1 that we just created, and then we're going to run our function. So weather, WAPFGR, what do we call it? Weather forecast. So I'm just going to copy this over. So weather forecast, and let's just say we want to leave it blank without any functions or any kind of variables being switched over. Okay, so now if we come over here and let's open up our inspect console. Did something wrong. It's not intend, it's extend. There we go. All right, so now let me just make sure y'all can see that. You can. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is what is coming across as a default. So let's say we want to come over here and we want to pass a variable to that app ID. So we're going to do app ID, kind of the same way we have it set up over here. But instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, let's do ASDF. And now if we look at it again, it's now changed to ASDF because I'm declaring this. So basically what we just created is an extendable function inside of jQuery, which is pretty cool. If you've never done it before, it allows you to create, instead of having to do a lot of if loops or for loops or anything like that, you basically create the defaults if it doesn't have these defaults, and then you just run through your code, or you allow the people that use your script to be able to change those defaults as they see fit. Okay, so for this entire example, we're going to be using the open weather map. So open weather map API, and this has a lot of really cool things. It's free, first of all. If you don't use it a lot, it's free. So we can actually look at, they have a pricing here. So if you look at pricing, if you think that you're going to go over 1 million calls a month, then definitely upgrade. But I mean, it's a pretty reasonable 60 calls per minute, 1 million calls per month, and then it gets you the stuff that we're going to be using for what we need. So we're going to be using the free version of this. So in order to continue on this tutorial, you do need to sign up for a API account. So just get the API key for your free account. I already have one, and I'm not going to show you mine just because it is one that I use on other sites. But basically, whenever you come in here to get your API key, you just create an account. It'll give you an API key, and then that's where we're going to be using inside of this when we go to call it on the initialize. So for the way that I have it set up, I actually created an additional file called const.js. I'm not going to show you that one just because it does contain my ID in it, but I can go in there and modify my constant.js in order to pass a constant variable, which I'm going to call, or have called, app ID. Right now you can see this just running test 1, 2, 3, which is what I have inside of my constant .js file here, because I have not updated it to actually be the API code that we're going to be looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and update that, and then we can get back to it in just a moment. Alright, so now we have that resolved. I also had to go in here and remove the console.log just because you know, we're not going to be using it. You're going to be putting in your own app ID. I would not put it in here, or I mean, I guess you could, but it depends on how you're wanting people to use it. If they're subscribing to their own API account, then they can, you know, put it inside of the app ID call that we did here, or you know, they can do it where it's inside of here as well. So maybe it would be better if we did it from inside of here instead of doing it inside of here for at least these example purposes. If you needed them to supply their own, then you know, definitely they can supply their own. But let's keep moving. So we got the app ID, and then another thing that you need to be able to pass to this this open weather API is the city, the region, which is either the region or the state, and then finally the country, which is I believe it's a 2-digit country code. And then we're going to allow them to pass in a variable of how many days they want to show. So obviously if it shows 1, it'll show the today's date, version of it, and then if it shows 2 through 7 or whatever we want to limit, I think the actual limit's like 15 or something like that, so we can give them the ability to add in their own count to be able to control how many days is put in for each section. Okay, so now let's come back down here and let's do some console logging just to make sure that we are getting what we want. So console log, and then let's do settings.count, and then that should give us a 5, which is exactly what we want. So if we come over here and we change this count to, let's say, 2, now it changes it to a 2, so our script is updating the way that it should. Okay, so let's again get rid of that, and let's get rid of this. Okay, so now we have the city, the region, the country, and the count. So let's go ahead and start working on the actual Ajax response to be able to get what we want. Okay, so inside of this function, we're going to create a variable called city because we will be using it for something else in just a second. So settings.city, and then we're going to do var region equals settings.region, and then var country equals let's see, settings.country. So inside of this, now we're gathering the city, region, and the country based on our settings. So let's create a Ajax request. So we're going to do $Ajax, and then we're going to open up that function, and the URL is going to be based off of Open Weather Map. So we're going to do Open Weather Map API, and then we want to grab the forecast. So if we click on API docs, it gives us a information that we need to be able to pass there. So let's do / and let me close this because it's going to get kind of long now. So / API dot open weather map dot org / data / 2.5 forecast daily, and then we're going to pass a query variable which is going to be our city, and then we're also going to pass in the region, so our region, and then again, and I need to add another plus sign right here, and then our region, and then we're going to be passing in the country, and then finally we can pass in the app ID and the count. So let's see, we got this plus and app ID, all lowercase, equals what we have established as the app ID, and then finally we're going to be passing in, actually that's not app ID, it's going to be settings.app ID, if I could spell settings correctly. And then finally we're going to be passing in and CNT equals settings dot count. Okay, so let me not save that so it keeps it wrapped like I had it. Okay, so now let's look and see, there's no issues that are currently coming across, so that's what we're kind of wanting. So let's see, let's keep adding to our Ajax here. So we have our URL, and then we're going to pass in, we're going to do async false. We want the data type to be JSON, and then on success we're going to do function data, and then for now let's just do console.log data. So if we're seeing data here, which we are, we should be able to see, and obviously this isn't my location because I'm running a VPN, but you can see that I believe this is for Ireland. I don't know I can't pronounce the name of that city, but I believe IR maybe for Ireland. Well, anyway, it's basically given us the dates that we're looking for, which our default is 5, so it's given us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 results. If we change our default to, let's say, 2, it should only give us the 0 and the 1. Let's see, list 0 and the 1. Alright, so everything so far is working the way we want it to. So now we need to dig into the data that it's given us, and we're going to be pulling some things out of this list. So, well, I guess before we get to that part, let's go back a little bit. So we want to also be able to control the unit of measurement that's being passed through to it. So let's do unit, and this is either going to be imperial or metric. I believe, in Ireland it would probably be metric, but I'm from the United States, so we use imperial for some reason. So I'm just going to have my default as imperial. You can put your default to be metric or imperial, whichever one you're more comfortable with. And there's also some factors that we can push, like for example, language. And just because I speak English, I'm going to set that as the default of English. And then we also need to control some of the text that's being sent over. So there's a part of the function that we're going to create in just a second that is going to kind of break it down for us a little bit and split it up, and it's going to name these days accordingly when it's like a 5 or 7 day forecast. So we're going to create a variable where we kind of control the initial naming of those days, and then if someone uses the script, they can also control the naming of the days. So on for me personally, it's going to go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, let's see, Saturday, and then Sunday's already there. So Saturday being the last one that's on our list. And then we also want to control the today text. So we're going to do today, and it's going to equal to today. Basically, if you speak Spanish or you speak a different language, you can come in here and change these to match your language, and they'll use those as defaults. Basically, this is creating an array that we're going to be iterating through in one of the next parts of this tutorial, where we actually go to lay out the information in a formatted way. I think that would be it that we need for now, but there is one more thing. Icon. So there is an icon that's associated with this project. You can download them inside of my the folder that's on GitHub, but for right now I'm just going to copy and paste the images that I have, so bear with me just a second so I can get that set up. It's somewhere around here. Okay, so there, and here. Okay, so now I have these icons that are named the same name that's expected from this API. So we will be able to see if it's it's a sunny day, it'll show a sunny icon. But that's basically it for that. Okay, so now we have this success, and it's showing us the information that we need down here. So let's look through the list and see what they're providing us. So in the first one, they're giving us humidity, wind gust, what it feels like, sunrise, temperature of the day, minimum, maximum, so forth and so on. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to pass along that information that we're getting, and we're going to loop through it and then be able to return all that information to where it needs to be. Okay, so I know that was a lot of words that I just said that probably didn't make any sense, but essentially we're going to create an each loop that does it for us. So each data.list, and then we're going to pass a function, and we're just going to pass it as a key value pair, and that's inside of this function. So let's see what kind of information. I need to keep this console.log data here so that I can see what I'm looking for. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we want to grab the setting days. So weather, temp, day. Okay, all right. So just bear with me a minute, and we are going to take this, and we're going to get the timestamp. So the variable timestamp equals value.dt, because that is a variable that's being passed here. I'm pulling all of this from here, so if you want to take a quick look, I mean, it's basically a Unix timestamp for the date time, and that's going to be converted into an actual value that we can work with. So we're going to do value of dt, and then we're going to create another variable called a. It's going to be equal to a new date, and we're going to take that timestamp and we're going to multiply that by 1,000. And then we're going to take that, and I'll show you. Okay. Alright, so we're going to create a string. So I need to create a blank string. Do I? No, I don't, because it's going to be declared either way. So we're going to do var string. Yeah, let's do var string equals, and let's just parse out the information that's being presented to us. Okay, so var string, and we're going to do settings dot days dot day. I believe is that what I want to call it? No, let's call it days, because it's more than one. Okay, so settings dot days, and then that string is going to take this a variable that we're creating here. So we're going to do a dot get day, not date, day, and essentially it's going to be passing in a value to this that's going to look in that array that we have and produce the actual result for that day that we're trying to grab. Okay, so let's just end the string here, and then we are going to pass in an append. But first, before we do that, we need to go to our index, and we have our IDs that are being declared here. So that's an example one. We need to make sure that that ID is being set. So let's go back up. I'm trying to remember where it's at. Inside of here, I think we can do it here. So let's do hash sign, and I'm going to create a variable called settings.id. So let's do settings.id, and then we're just going to do an append. Right now it doesn't equal to anything. I'm just going to append that string to it. So I want to do a settings ID, and we could probably do that right at the beginning of our return, so right before we actually call this function. So we're going to do settings.id equals this dot attribute, and then we're just going to pass in the ID that we're sending to the script. So that should, okay, string is not defined, which that's fine. We will get to that part in just a minute. I'm just looking through my code right now. Okay, so settings ID append string. Okay, so why is it saying string is not? Because it's inside of there. Okay, well, one thing that we need to do before we get to this part, so before we get to the string part, we need to check and make sure that there's something actually, that we're passing the count correctly and stuff like that. So we're going to do if settings.count equals 1, we're going to do this, else we're going to do this. And then if we have it as set as 1, we want to do the today. So since we're getting an array of data for the forecast for the next 16 days or whatever it was, we want to check to see if key equals 0. We're going to do this, which is essentially going to do var string equals something else, else we're going to have var string equal this. So we're going to do this one first, and then we'll go back to the other one. So now I got to figure out why string is not defined on 60. It's not being passed through the function, I guess. So give me just a second. So, well, that's because it needs to be included inside of the each loop in order to be able to pass that string variable, because it's not being passed outside of that loop. Alright, so now let's move on. And we can see here it says Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because this video is being recorded on a Sunday, so it would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would be the next 5 days in succession for me. Alright, so it kind of seems like it's doing what we want it to do, so let's keep going. So we're getting the very beginning of this string is being declared here. So let's go ahead and start wrapping this in some HTML. Alright, so let's do, before we get to the settings, let's do div class equals single. Okay, well, I just messed that whole thing up, so let's try that again. Put it down here so I can see it. So div class equals single weather, and then inside of this we're going to have an h3, which is going to be, so we're going to do this plus this, and then we're going to do plus this. Okay, I think that'll give us our h3s, which is good. Alright, so now let's also start getting some of the icons and stuff like that. So we have our h3 here, so let's do image source equals plus settings dot icon plus, because we want to get that folder now, and now we're going to grab the actual icon that's coming from the value. So value dot weather, we just want to grab the first icon that's inside of this array, which again you can see from the console.log. Whenever I get done with this part, I'll show you. And then we're going to be passing .png to this, and just for good measure we're going to do class equals so class equals image fluid, and then we're just going to create an icon class as well. And then finally we're going to do div class equals let's see, let's call it temp, because we're going to be passing the temperature to it. So now we're going to do plus, and then we're going to pass the value dot temp dot day dot to fixed with 0 places. Okay, and then let's go ahead and pass the and degree. Okay, that's good. And then finally we're going to pass over description. So we're going to do div class equals description, then value dot weather 0 dot description. Okay, I think that should do it. Okay, sky is clear, sky is clear, sky is clear. So it looks like, I don't know if it's, I mean, it does vary a little bit. Let's go back over here to our index and try to make this a little bit easier to read as well. Okay, so let's do div. So we're going to do, let's do quick. So div container dash fluid. Then I want to do, let's do div class row, then column. Yeah, div column. And let's take this example 1 and put inside of here just to make it where it's not so butted up against the end of it. So, okay, so obviously 310 is definitely not the temperature that we're wanting to grab. So there is some configurations that we need to do in order to make it where it'll pass like the what is it, the unit. We want it to be able to pass the unit. So right now we're not passing that unit. So let's do, after the settings count, we're going to do plus and I think it's units equals, and then we're going to do plus settings dot unit, and then let's go ahead and pass the language just to have it on there. So settings dot unit, and then we're going to do another plus and lang equals, and then finally settings dot language. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Alright, so right now that looks a little bit more human legible. So if we switch over our default from imperial to metric, that may make sense to people that are used to metric temperatures. So you can see now it's actually showing the, the correct information. Alright, so let's switch back from there. Alright, so now I want to change this up a little bit, and we're going to pass in a city. Let's say we want to do city, nope, not in quotes, city, then New York. And remember, we have to pass in 3 variables. So we got city, region, which New York is in New York, and then country is the 2-digit country code. So US. And this is what it's currently like next week for New York, New York. Let's see if we want to change this to Los Angeles, California. California. Alright, so beautiful weather over there. Let's try one more. Let's do Houston, Texas. Alright, so the weather's not too bad over there. I mean, it looks like it's going to rain. But from these examples, you can see that it's switching from, the icons are switching, the temperatures are switching. We can also pass in, let's say we want to do, I think it's language. Then let's change this to Espanol for Spanish. And you can see that the information that's being passed also updates. So this is now responding to what we're typing in, and it's actually showing the icons, it's showing the days. Now we just need to format them a little bit. Okay, so we have where this is the information for our single weather that is being passed as a forecast. We also need to be able to showcase some other things that are being passed as a single day. But before I get to that part, let's go ahead and open up this, and we're going to first I need to add a class to this. So let's do class equals forecast, so that way that we always know which one it's trying to hit. So we're going to do forecast is going to be our parent, and you can do this with whatever kind of CSS you have. In order to make it where it kind of works in a few different places, I'm going to use grid. So we're going to do display grid, and then we're going to do grid template columns, and we're going to have that set up as repeat auto fit. Let's see, min max 1 rem 1 full row. Okay, and then let's do grid gap of 10 pixels, and then let's say padding 1 rem, give it a margin bottom of 1 rem, and let's go ahead and make it border radius of, let's say, 5 pixels. Text align equals center. Okay, so doesn't look too bad. Now we need to actually stack up for these columns that we did inside of this. Okay, so let's create now let's do our H3 font size 1.2 rem, margin 0. Okay. Why is that not switching over? It feels like I'm missing something in my grid layout. I think I need to change that single weather. Okay, so let's do dot single weather margin of 1 rem 0. So that doesn't really do anything. So why is it not? Grid gap, padding, margin bottom, border radius. It's weird. What am I missing? Okay, well, I'm just gonna keep writing the styles for it, and maybe I'll figure it out as I get down. So we're gonna do description, text transform. I like to have the description capitalized. Again, this is all just kind of me doing my own thing. You can use Bootstrap here if you wanted to. Let's see. Description, we're going to do image max width 100%. Then we're going to do temp. Let's do font size 1.5 rem. I believe inside of the temp, I think we should add something there. So we have temp. Okay, maybe not. I was thinking maybe the degree may need to be smaller, but that's fine. I think it'll be fine. That's fine. I still can't figure out why it's not. Row column. Why is it not pushing over? I feel like I'm doing something wrong. Container fluid. I wonder. I don't think this would have anything to do with it, but just in case. Get it out of there. It does not. Okay, so it has to be the style that's causing that. but what is it? So, oh, that would be it. That was it. Man, sometimes my spelling gets the better of me. Okay, alright, so now it kind of gives us a forecast, which is pretty cool. Forecast is pretty close to being how I want it to be. Alright, so not liking that. It's not capitalized. Okay, it is capitalized because it was coming over small case or lowercase for everything. Okay, well that's good. I think this is a good kind of a good start to our forecast. So now let's get started on the today part. Okay, so we're going to switch back over to our weather.js, and essentially they are the same. I think that the biggest thing is that we're not going to be doing the single weather div, so I'm going to take that out and change this to single so it matches. I thought that it would. Why is that not like in there? Earn terminator string literal. Okay, well let's go through it. Okay, so let's change this to from an H3 to an H2. I guess first let's come in here and I'm going to create another row, and let's just add a break tag there, and we're going to do this one as column MD4, and then this one, instead of being forecast, is going to be today with an example of 2. So today, example 2, and then over here we are going to grab this and go with example 2, and then we're going to have count equals 1. Alright, so it's obviously still broken from where I have it at. So let's go in there and look through it. So first thing I want to do is change the H2. So we're going to be doing, we don't care about this right now because we're going to be getting that word that we set up as today. And then the image is good, so that one can stay the same. The temperature is value temp day to fixed. Okay, that's good. Weather, description, let me see, where is it going wrong here? Unexpected token, var string, settings, I'm trying to make sure everything's terminated where it should be. Okay, that needs to be double. Alright, there we go. Alright, so now we have a today as well as a forecast. So today is obviously Sunday, so these two are matching exactly where they need to be. Now let's add a few other things into this. So from this we have the ability to view, let's see, there's somewhere on here that tells you what would be response. Okay, so pressure, humidity, wind speed, gusts, stuff like that. So what I want to do is add in some other sections down at the bottom of this that would be included inside of our description, but kind of just give us, you know, pressure, humidity, stuff like that. Okay, so we have our description here, so I'm going to come down here and we're going to add a break tag, and then div class equals, let's just say extra is what we're going to wrap the entire thing in. So, and then we're going to do div class, I guess we could do div class span. That's kind of a weird thing to do, but okay. And then we want to have the humidity. So let's go ahead and put in another class here. So div class equals enter. Okay, and basically I'm going to copy from here to, I want to say from here to here, because we're going to use that 3 times. We're just going to change what comes in it. So that's 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so inside of the inner, the first one we're going to pass is the humidity. So let's pass the humidity here. So we're going to do value dot humidity, and then the humidity, if you look at the documentation for the API, it always comes across as a percent. So that one we don't really have to change there. Okay. Let's go down to the next inner, which is going to be, let's do this to open it up. And then we're going to pass in value.pressure, which again I believe is passed at a specific value called HPA. And then finally we are going to pass the speed. So we're going to do this plus this, and it's going to be value.speed. Yes, I think that'll be what we need. Also, I'm going to include in a break tag and small, and we're going to add in the following for our words. Okay, so up here we added some words. We did not add it for that. Alright, well, let's go add it then. So we need to add in some text. So we're going to add in a new section called text, and the first one is going to be humidity, and then I'm just going to pass it in English for now, humidity. And then the next one is going to be pressure, because we are going to need these values. So pressure, and then wind, which is going to be wind. Okay, so now it's not test, it is text, and we need a comma. Okay, so now let's scroll back down to where we were, and inside of these two we're going to do settings dot text dot wind, I think is what we called it. Yes, wind. Okay, and then we also need to do the same thing for the other one. So we're going to do small here, and actually let me check to see how that's looking. Alright, well that's good. So we have our pressure. Right after the HPA, we're going to do settings.text.pressure. And then the same thing we're going to do after the percentage here. It's going to be humidity. Humidity. Okay, so humidity, pressure, wind. Alright, so I think that that is going to give us the additional information we want to supply. So let's come over back to our CSS, and let's do some modifications. So today is, I think, what we're going to call it. Yes, so class is today. And so inside of this we're going to do padding 1 rem, margin, bottom, again 1 rem. I'm going to do text align, center, color is just going to make it white. Actually, you know what? We'll add in some settings to be able to change that. So for right now, I'm just going to leave the color as white. And then let's see, for the description, and I'm just going to copy these down to it. But instead of being 0.7, we're going to do let's do 0.9. And then the image is going to be 100%. And then that's not what I wanted to do. And then the city. Wait, we don't have a city. Okay. I think that was something left over that I was looking at it my original development for this. Okay, so the temperature is inside of a div. So div class temp. No, it's still the same. That's fine. Temp. Let's see what it looks like with 3 rem for the size. Let's go ahead and do a background color of something so we can see what we're doing. So background color blue. Okay. All right. Well, it's looking a little bit better. All right. So let me zoom out a little bit so it looks a little cleaner. Okay. So we have our dot temp there. Let's do font, weight, folder, and then the span, I believe, is what we have in there. So we have temp, div class temp, span here. So extra span. I don't think we have any. Yeah, I don't think we have a span for the temp itself. We have a extra, so dot extra width is going to be 100%, and then the span inside of the extra is going to be width 33%. Display inline. Let's do inline block, and then inside of that we're going to do dot inner. Let's do text align center, font size 0.8 rem, and then small within that, the font size 0.6 rem. Alright, so that doesn't look too bad. Alright, yeah. I mean, that looks good. I don't really like the icon being the way it is, so we're going to need to create a class that changes that icon color, but I don't think that'd be too difficult to do. We can actually do that in CSS. So let's go back to our weather.js, and in the top, let's give them the ability to do some theme changes. Okay, so we're going to do a new section called theme, and then let's do background color, and let's just make it a default of white, and then the color, let's just make it a default of 333, and then let's do a attribute called force image white. That'll make it where we can change that colorful image to a white image when it has like a darker background. But let's make it false to begin with, and then let's set a border of 1 pixel solid, and let's just do that. Okay. So I think that's all we need for the theme. So now let's go down to, after we append that string, let's check for a few things. So first thing we want to do is if settings dot theme dot force image white equals true, we want it to add some CSS filtering to this string here. So let's do, and actually we want it to add it to the image, so we're going to do plus image, and then we're going to do .css, and we're going to pass an object to that called filter brightness 0, and we're going to invert 1, and I think that should do it. So if we come over here and we say, what was it called? Force image white. So it's going to be theme. Let me just copy the thing that we have up here. So theme force image white. And let's make this true. Okay, so it did not change the image color. Let me see if we got anything here. It's not adding anything to it. So let's see. It should be coming across as true. And let's do a border 0 pixels. Let's do a background color of red with a color of white. So we'll see if it listens to us whenever we get it to go there. Okay. So we have it being set here if settings.theme.forceImageWide equals true. And then we're going to be passing the ID plus the image.css filter brightness 0 without a comma and invert. There we go. Alright, so now that actually worked a little bit better. I just put a comma in the wrong place. Okay, so now we have it where it's changing that white. So let's get it to listen to some of our settings that we're also doing. So let me take this. I'm just going to copy this because there's a few different settings that we're going to be looking for. And it's not going to be the image any longer. It's going to be just the ID. And then we're going to change this from filter to background color. And then we're going to make that be equal to settings dot theme dot background color. Alright, so that's our first one. So now, and you can see it's changing as we're doing it. So the color is going to be equal to settings dot theme dot color, and then finally border is going to be equal to settings dot theme dot border. Not background color, border. Okay, so that should change to what we want it to change to. So let's say if we want it to do, instead of 0 pixels here, we could do 10 pixels solid, and we're going to do a black border. There we go. Alright, so now it's changing it for this one, but it's not changing it for that one, which is cool. Okay, so let's just put this one back at 0 pixels, and then I think that's good for our today. Our today section. I'm not ending the video yet, just that's good for our today section. Alright, okay, so let's add some more things to this. So I want to just kind of customize these a little bit and change them up a little bit. Okay, so let's do example 1, 2, 3, and then this is going to change to example 4. And let's do another one for good measure and change it to 5. Okay, so it's all kind of breaking up, which that's okay. So for example 1, I'm going to do example 1 here, and then example 2 is going to go here, down below it, and I'm going to keep all of this. I'm just going to change up the colors on it. Actually, you know what? Let me change up the city too. So let's go back to New York with this one. And then we're going to change the background color to green. Okay, that looks good. And then we have an example 3. So let's do example 3 and change this one to, I don't know, let's say Lima, Peru, and that's going to be in, I want to say PE, and then let's do like a golden color. Golden's not working. Let's do gold then. And then also let's change the language. So we're going to do language, and that's going to be Espanol. And then we can also come in here and change some of these settings as well. So we got today and days that we can change. So let's come over here, and I'm just going to add them right here. And I already have someplace, somewhere, where I have the Spanish versions of these days set. Here. There we go. All right. So I'm going to make this one 4 because I wanted to do where it actually shows the days of the week. And let's get rid of the theme because we don't need that. Or this. Example 4. So example 2 and example 3 are going to be the same. So 2, 3, I'm just going to change the color to gold. And also let's change the color of the text to 333. Just kind of make it a little bit different, and let's not force that image to be white. There we go. Alright, so those look cool, and you can see on this one it's in Spanish. I don't know if Peru uses metric, but let's go ahead and switch it over to metric. So we're going to pass in the unit of metric here. There we go. Alright, so I don't know if they use metric or not, but just Lima, Peru came off the top of my head. Alright, so this is kind of a pretty quick and easy way to kind of get started. So let's see if there's anything else that we can do to it. Well, one thing that I see is you can't really tell what location this is for. So let's change that. Let's create a flag up here, and we're going to call it show city, and then we're going to set that to be true always. And then let's go down to the bottom where we have the CSS at, and we're going to add a variable here. So if settings dot show city equals true, we want it to show it in a certain way. So let's do let's copy this, and I'm going to paste this, and we're going to do a append, and then let's just append an h4 to it. So we're going to do h4 class equals city, and then this h4 is going to contain the city information. Alright, so the city information is what is given to us whenever we go to create something. So the first variable is city, and then I'm just going to copy this and paste it. So city, region, country. So city, country, now we're going to do region, and let's go ahead and just add a comma in between each one of these. Okay, so now, well, I don't want this inside of the for each loop because I don't want it to appear multiple times. So let me see, that is the each loop. Alright, so we're going to keep it inside the success but get it outside of the each loop. I only want it to appear one time. Now, so having it appear underneath these looks cool. On this one, not so much, just because they're set up differently. So instead of doing, we're going to look for a count. So if we're going to do if settings.count is not equal to 1, we want to do something else. We want to do this. So let's take this, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy the same thing, but instead of being append, we want it to come before that section. Alright, so now we have Lima, Peru, Los Angeles, California, New York, New York, New York, New York. Alright, so that's kind of getting there. Alright, so now let's go back to our SCSS, and I want to now add the city part that I was looking at adding a second ago. Okay, so let's do right here, I'm going to do city font size 0.8 rem, and then let's just give it a margin top of 1 rem. Alright, so that makes it look a little bit better there. So let's also do the same thing or something similar to our actually, let me get rid of these because that is not needed anymore. Let's go back up here. Text align center. Why is it not centered inside of this? Is it not inside of the div? I don't think it is. It is not. So we're going to have to do this city thing as well. So since it's above here, I'm just going to center it. That shouldn't be too big of a deal. So we're going to do text align center. Display block. Why is it not centering? Text align center. That's weird. It's not even seeing that at all. That's because it's outside of the forecast. So let's take this and we're going to push it up here. There we go. And it's already centered in there, so it doesn't really matter there. Alright, well, cool. So we have that. Let's see, what else can we do? So how about an orientation? So let's click back over to our weather.js, and we're going to add a horizontal or a vertical orientation. So let's do orientation, and it's just going to be default at horizontal. Horizontal, okay. And I'm just going to create a new one. So for 5, let's do 5, and let's do a count of 3. Those are all fine. Let's do orientation and then make it vertical. Okay, so that'll give us a vertical, so an up and down compared to the left and right that we currently have. Okay, so let's go back down to where we got our settings, show city, and let's do orientation here. So kind of the same functionality, we're just doing a different function or a different setting. So settings dot orientation, if it's not equal to horizontal, then we want it to do something. So we're going to add a class. So let's do copy this settings ID, and then we're going to do add class vert. Okay, and then over on our vertical or our CSS, we can come in here to our forecast and let's do a and.vertical, and then make it where it is grid template columns none, and let's just do a margin dash bottom 1 rem. Okay, let's see how that looks. Okay, it's getting there. So that's example 4. So let's do example 5. Should be the only thing different. Okay, cool. So now we have 3 days that are showing for Lima, Peru, and it is vertical instead of horizontal. Okay, so trying to think, what else can we do for this? I don't know if this is going to work on a local machine. I know it works on a production machine, but what if we can get What if your city, state, all that kind of stuff it's not included with this? So let's say let's change all of this and not add a city, state, or zip code. What is that? Oh, okay. It was just a mistype. Okay, so let's say the only thing we're going to pass to this is number 3. And right now it's not. Let's go ahead and make it vertical again. It's not passing a city over. Getting there. Okay. All right. So now it's vertical. Right now, I don't really know where it's pulling this from. It doesn't seem like it's lining up with anything else. Maybe it's taken the last one that was entered. So if I come over here and take off the unit, let's see if they match. They do not. So I have no idea where the 90, 99, 103. There's got to be a default somewhere in there. But let's say if we wanted to make it where it actually can pull the current location from the visitor's browser. All right. So let's first check to see if city is equal to blank and region is also equal to blank and country is also equal to blank. Okay. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. Auto-correct it before I get there. Okay. So now, what we wanted to do is let's call a function. So we're going to do var location equals, let's say something like get location. Now again, I don't know if this is going to work in this demo just because it is, I don't even know if my computer is accessible for something like this because of the VPN, but yeah, I guess we'll see. So let's go ahead. We're going to use an external service, but first I need to create this function. So let's do underneath here, this function line here, we're going to create another function called getLocation. And let's do var return. It's just going to be, we're going to return an array because we want to gather as much information as we can. And basically the only thing we're going to do is we're going to use Ajax, let's see, Ajax to hit a URL that tells us the location about an IP address that they can get from the user. Alright, so URL, there's one of them that I've used before that's called ipapi.co, and then we're just going to hit their JSON response. Let's do async false, and I'm pretty sure this is going to give me an error about cross-site scripting or something like that, but it will work if you test it on your non-local machine. I mean, I don't know if it doesn't work on all local machines, it just doesn't work on mine, I know that much. Forgetting my comma here. Alright, so data type and then success. We are going to create a function, we're going to pass the data, and then we're going to set this return array to equal the data, and then we're going to return RET. Okay, so if we open up this right now, let's see, let's open up this. It should give us information about whatever VPN I'm currently on. Alright, well, it says I'm in London, England, which again, it's not me. I'm not from London, England. It's just a VPN. But it's given us all this information. So city, region, country, that's exactly what we're looking for. So obviously it works. Again, it probably isn't going to work for this site just because it's just not going to work because of cross-site scripting, which I will show you momentarily. But before we get to that part, we should be able to come back up to this if statement here, and now we can take city equals location dot city, region equals location dot region, and then country equals location dot country. Okay, so essentially this will check to see if the city, region, or country has been submitted. If it has not, then it will gather their location based off their IP address, run it through this system, and then feed you back all of this information about that IP address. But it's not showing right now because if we go to inspect, we hit console, it's going to tell us that course policy, no control, because it is a local server. It's not able to hit this specific API. There's other APIs that you can use to check for IP addresses if you want to test it out. I know this works on a real machine, something that's actually connected to the internet in a meaningful way. So you can try something else, or you can use this on a live server. It's completely up to you. Okay, so moving on. We can also control the colors for these. So I'm just going to add this back in so that we'll get something to appear. And then I'm also going to pass in some theming for it down here. And that should change it here for us as well. So let's say we want to change this back to red. We want this to be white. No, not white. We want to do FFF. And then, what was the other one? It was called force image white true. Alright, so you can also do these on the forecast themselves. But I think that should do it. I can't think of anything else to add on here that would be worth looking into. Basically, this tutorial showed you how to create your own like jQuery class, I guess, in order to make like your own like plugin that people can dive into without having to know any code. You can pass whatever variables you want to pass to it. It also teaches you how to use Ajax to open or hit and open weather API. Also how to gather location information from an IP address, and just so you know, whenever that happens, it'll actually have a little pop-up that says, hey, this website's trying to use your location information. Do you accept or deny? If they accept it, then it should hit it. If they deny it, then obviously it won't work the way it is right now. It's probably something I've done in the past where I've denied that from my local, so you can't see it. But anyway, you've learned how to do that. I think that is pretty much it for this tutorial. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a fun tutorial for me. It's really cool being able to work with your own kind of classes inside of jQuery. So again, if you have not subscribed to the channel and you like this kind of content, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button to be notified the next time I do another tutorial just like this one. And then you can also like and comment on the videos and try to respond as quickly as I can. So thanks for watching, and I guess I'll talk to you later.